Hey guys, we have a special guest visiting us at the Tavern today. We have Cleveland-born independent wrestler and one half of the Besties in the World, Davey Vega. What's going on, man? How are you?
Hey, what's up, guys? How are you?
Good, good. Glad to have you here. Thanks for stopping by. We're excited to get some time with you.
I appreciate you guys having me. Like I said, you messaged me, and I just so happened to look at my request folders, and I was like, "Oh, okay, cool, yeah, sweet. I'm definitely on board for this." So,
Awesome.
I feel like we're in a lot of people's request folders unread, so we appreciate you looking, man.
yeah, absolutely. Like, I try to look at my messages at least once a day, but when that request doesn't come up very often, so it's pretty noticeable. So.
Awesome, man. Now you work a lot with AAW in Chicago, and they've grown. Like, I think they're one of the hottest indie scenes in the country right now.
Yeah.
What's the atmosphere been like at these recent shows?
So AAW, it's funny that you mentioned that because like at the time, I don't know, it's probably about 5 years ago or so when they revamped the shows. Um, they were bringing us in, and we thought we were on the chopping block because everybody that we were the only people that were like technically, I guess you could say, like homegrown talent there at the time.
Right.
Because you had Sammy and his crew who were in Impact. You had the Lucha Brothers. You had everybody was just about signed or doing something big or about to be doing something big, and it's like we were just waiting for our pink slip at that point. Uh, but yeah, like you said, they've grown and continued to grow ever since then. And even during quarantine, they started doing those live tapings just so they had stuff to put out, which was smart. But yeah, man, the atmosphere there, like everybody, there's a lot of new people backstage, so that's a little bit different, but not necessarily bad. Atmosphere is great. Like everybody's positive. Everybody's there to work, and everybody's there to just go out there and kill it, really, and just have a great show for AAW. So it's a really great atmosphere in the back, at least. Atmosphere in the crowd wise. I've always said that the Bourbon and the Logan crowds are a little bit different, and not in a bad way. But the atmospheres are just a little bit different. It's a little hard to explain, but it's great. I love working there, and I mean, I've been there almost 10 years at this point. So,
oh wow. So
yeah.
Were they like one of the few companies that kind of, for lack of a better word, gave you something to do during the pandemic, or like were there other companies? Because I know, it looked a little grim, the indie scene for all the wrestlers out there when it first hit. So like, were they one of the few, or what was it like when it first?
It was rough. We had our last match March like 27th of 2020, and then we didn't have another match until I think August. And that was Black Label. So we worked for Black Label a few times, and then AAW started back up because they started. Illinois opened up, allowing people to come to shows. So those were mainly the two companies that we were working for at the time. And yeah, I mean, it honestly, if those companies if we wouldn't have been, but like we would have lost all of our momentum if it wasn't for those two companies, to tell you the truth. Because I mean, you had like GCW running, and like I think Black Label ran a couple more times before that. But we would have lost all our momentum because we weren't getting booked because nobody was running, and it was a little sketchy. And then two, it was like, well, do we want to go out and like test fate and maybe get COVID backstage or not? I don't know. So it was more of it was Fitchett and I's kind of agreement that we would kind of watch and make sure that everybody was safe whenever we would go to shows.
So for almost 5 months, no wrestling. What were you doing, man? Like, how was it? Were you antsy? Were you nervous? What was going on?
Oh yeah, I'll admit, like I was going through. I actually through quarantine, I actually developed a really bad case of anxiety, which I still deal with now. Complete opposite of how I was before the pandemic, which is wild. Like I have a hard time going into groups of crowded areas now. Like even going to the shows, I get anxiety now. So it's a little it's a little off-putting sometimes actually going to the shows, and like AAW's got what 500 600 fans at sometimes. Like it's a little I'm getting better, but like I definitely developed some anxiety during the quarantine. So I will say that.
Yeah.
So can you talk about talk about the pressures of, having a young child during this uncertain time, and wondering about what's going on with the indies and like, where's your head at during this whole thing?
My head is always at, okay, I'm looking at my bank account to try to figure out what I can spend my money on. um, and then even now, like some of our bookings are a little bit slow because still people are still trying to, get back to normal.
Yeah.
So it hits the bank account before anything, and I just got to be a little bit smarter with my money because I didn't realize how much, the last before quarantine, I think the last 3 years before that, how much money I was making wrestling wise and like how much it was supplementing my money. So that was a big factor, was like, okay, I got to think of somebody else now. I got to figure out how to disperse my money better. So
What did you said you kind of developed the anxiety during the pandemic. Like, how were you kind of coping with that? What do you have any hobbies or anything that you kind of dove into during those times? Because I know all of us, like for a brief part, we were all just either binging Netflix stuff. There was nothing to do. You're trying to
Yep.
stay sane. So what were you?
That's why this podcast started, honestly. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I binged a lot of Netflix. There was a lot of shows that I was like, well, I got the time. So there was a lot of shows that I picked up and watched. I got real lucky and bought like a nice pair of dumbbells and some kettlebells and some stuff for my living room, and I was working out in my living room just about every day, even if it was for like 40 minutes at a time, like just to do something. Um, and then yeah, most of the time it was hanging out with my roommate. Luckily, I had roommates, so it wasn't like completely like by myself. But hang out with the roommates. We ended up watching the whole MCU over like in chronological order.
Oh, nice.
That was actually a lot of fun. But yeah, I mean that's kind of how I kept busy. And then hobby wise, like video games, Netflix. I picked up reading again. I'm actually in the middle of Stephen King's The Stand.
Nice.
Yeah, so I picked that back up. I used to be a huge reader, and then I just haven't had the time. So I picked that back up during quarantine, and that was nice. So
You got lucky with those weights, man. I know those were hard to come by.
well, yeah, I bought. Well, people were price gouging. They were like
Oh
up at
yeah.
the price, almost triple and quadruple the price
Yeah.
normally. And I understand why, because they were able to get it.
Yeah.
But it's just yeah, I got real lucky with the kettlebells. I got two 35-pound ones for $80, which is tremendous.
Deal. Yeah.
And then the funny thing was about I bought the dumbbells from Walmart. It was just like the screw on regular dumbbells, like you screw the weights on.
Yep.
Uh, it was like 6 weeks and I still hadn't gotten them. So they sent me an email and they refunded me. 3 weeks later, I ended up getting them in the mail for free, basically,
Perfect.
because they had already refunded me.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, it was. I was like, oh well, that was cool. So
It worked out well.
Yeah.
yeah, it worked out very well for me.
Can you talk a little bit about the origins and the formation of the Besties in the World?
Yeah, absolutely. So Fitch and I we started traveling together it was right around the tail end of 2009. He had just started wrestling, and then he started coming to Texas with myself, Gary J, Evan Jalistico, and Pierre Abernathy, the Submission Squad. That was like our big thing back then. We were in Texas probably at the very least one whole weekend every month, sometimes twice, like a full week, 2 full weekends a month. So we were down there pretty frequently. So it was a lot of time in the car with these four gentlemen. So you're kind of forced to be friends at that point.
Yeah.
So we ended up tagging around, just screwing around and like tagging because we had the same trainer. Dingo was our trainer. And we were like, well, we're the last two Dingo students, so why don't we just test it out and see what happens? And we've been to like I actually helped train him, so like we had some chemistry from that already. So we tagged a handful of times before 2012, And then AIW picked us up and was like, hey, we need tag teams. We want to run you guys as a full tag team. And we're like, absolutely perfect. That went well until about 2013. We were actually supposed to wrestle the Briscoe brothers, and Fitchett tore his quad.
Oh,
Yeah. Literally 2 weeks before the show, and we're like, well, shit, that sucks. So we stopped tagging for a while, at least there. And he actually took some time off until about 2016. And then we came back to AAW because he was on and off with them too. He came back to AAW and was like, hey, I want to go full force. Let's do this. And we revamped ourselves. Like, I mean, we were ourselves, but we added the Besties in the World. We added the song, we added the jackets, we added the dance. Like, just everything kind of came together within like 3 months, and it just took off.
yeah, the package, the jackets, I mean, I love the package.
Yeah.
Now, did he join you when you went on to England and Ireland, and you guys?
Yeah. So our first England trip was June of 2018, and we relocated there for a month.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just because we wanted to get our name out there, and it was like, well, we've done pretty much not all the big stuff, but we did Ring of Honor at the time. We ended up actually wrestling the Briscoes at Ring of Honor at that point. So that was a lot of fun. We had won tag titles all over the Midwest and other companies on the East Coast, West Coast, whatever. We were like, well, why don't we just test ourselves and go out there and see if we can do it. So we went out there for a month, and it went really well for us. And I want to say when we got back, it was probably 6 months. And then February of 2019 until June of 2019, we went back once a month for a week each time. And then September of 2019, we went back for 2 weeks and did like 6 shows in that matter of the 2 weeks. So yeah, he was with me for all of it. So it's like we were pretty much inseparable.
So, can you walk us through the process of taking an international booking, like from the proposal to the travel day to getting settled in like a new country? Like, what's that entire process?
So basically, it came down to, we kind of were throwing the idea around, because not that we were going to retire, but it was like, well, what do we do? Like, do we try England? Like, just go out there and do it, or do we start hitting these other companies up? Like, what do we do? So we actually got pushed by Ricky Shane Page.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we had a conversation with him because he had been to England a few times, and he was like, just go, just do it. Like, you guys will get over it. It'll be fine. Just do it. Like, I'll help you out. And he actually had a few people over there that he's pretty close with, like, kind of watch out for us and like help us get bookings. So so that happened, and we were just like, all right, we're just gonna do it. And I think March of 2018, I was full blown like bothering every promoter that I could find. Like, hey, we're gonna be there in 3 months, and I know you guys book your shows way in advance. So like, if you want a tag team, here we are.
Put me on.
And we got a lot of like interest, but not a lot of like confirmed bookings. And Fitchett knows this now, but we only went over there with 2 bookings. And I told him, I was like, oh yeah, we got a couple, like this, that, or the other. And he was like, oh, okay, cool. So we had a booking. Basically, I was like, we had a booking like 3 days after we got there. So we just had to hole up in the hotel for a couple days until we had the show. And in my head, I was like, I don't need to tell him, because we're going to get bookings off of this show. Like, I can feel it. And that was just me being, I guess, cocksure about myself. But I was like, I don't need to tell him. I'll end up telling him at another time. So we had the match. It was against Pete Dunne and Millie McKenzie.
Nice.
And man, like, we got back to the merch table after the match, and we had 3 more bookings by the end of the show. And then we ended up getting booked for Progress, and then we were riding with a couple people, and they helped us get booked. So that was cool. Just like, it's not really much different. I will say, in England, they at least answer you whether they want to use you or not. which is always nice. They just don't leave you on red, which is professional.
Yeah, absolutely.
They don't do that, and then you never have to ask for. At least every time that I did, like they just assume that trans is involved. Like they pay for everything, so you don't even have to ask for it.
Wow.
So, yeah, like they're like, oh, okay, this, okay, cool. Here's your bus ticket, or here's your train ticket, or here's the money for however you're gonna get here. So it's not even really talked about.
European though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like it just sounds just professional.
Yeah. So that's pretty awesome. Like that you guys, you kind of had the bravado to like, okay, I'm going to get like 2 or 3 bookings and I'm just going to roll the fucking dice
Yep.
and go over there and bet on myself. And you go over there and you're getting all these bookings off your first show. I mean, that shows that you guys bet on yourself and you made it happen. That's great.
Well, yeah, like we bet on ourselves by going over there. I doubled down on ourselves by telling him that we had more than 2 bookings. So, but no, man, I felt that we had it. We still have it, and I just knew that like we just needed that chance. We just needed someone in to book us and give us a chance against whoever, some of the best of talent they had over there. So it worked out pretty well. So
that's great, man.
What's it like? You know, we always hear stories of, you know, that British strong style. What's it like? You know, you guys cut your teeth, worked with Ring of Honor, held all these titles all over the Midwest, kind of tapped out that scene as far as learning that style in America. What's it like to go to England and wrestle this whole new style?
So it wasn't so much of a shock, just because like we were kind of anticipating it, just because everywhere's different.
Right.
Even when we go and wrestle Canada, something's different. So we were kind of anticipating it, but I mean, we came back way better wrestlers because of it, and we were only there a month, and it was wild, man. Like we got back, and you could just tell there was something different about us in the ring. And then when we started going back every month, it was just like clockwork. We were just well oiled, and it was like you couldn't really touch us, if in my opinion. So yeah, it was wild.
So for like listeners who may not know, like, can you, in layman's terms, break down what the difference in that British strong style is? Like, what do you feel like you got from that style that you didn't have before you went?
You know, I think it's just the way that the way that you just you go into the matches. You go into the matches, and the way that things are done in the matches. There's different ways. There's always different ways to do things in matches, obviously. You know, to tell your story, or whatever you're trying to achieve that night in the ring. And just being able to pick some of the younger guys over there that have been wrestling, like being able to hang out with Pete Dunne the few times that I got to hang out with him over there, and just pick his brain. Like just doing that, like I'm a better wrestler. So yeah, and it's just yeah, like the without giving too much away, I guess just like the way that I you know, I go into matches and how I operate in matches, kind of,
Right.
you know, you can just tell the difference, I guess.
Did you guys do anything fun over there, like touristy, that you got to experience while you were there?
Oh yeah, we went to Wales and saw like the castles out there.
Oh, that's
Yeah, those were really cool. We stayed in Wales for a week. We were in London for a couple days and got to hang out in London. We mostly bar hopped. Like it felt like almost that month that we stayed there, it felt like almost every day we were at a bar.
You got to hit the pubs, man. You got to hit.
They go hard in England, man. And at that, I just started drinking too, around like not heavily, but like I was more of a social drinker, and it was like almost every night I'm like, Fidget, I am dying. I cannot do this every night.
Well, what a way to get thrown into it, though.
I know, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, we've talked to a few tag teams before, but this is something. So, if you take the in-ring aspect out of it, what's the mental change from entering a tag match versus a singles match? Is there a change?
Oh, yeah. Especially since recently I've had to kind of branch out on my own a little bit. Um, you have to, cardio wise, you have to be, not that you don't have to be, your cardio is not important when you're in a tag match, but in a tag match, you have someone to lean on.
Right.
You have a partner to push you, someone there from the corner, like, hey, I'm right here if you need me, or hey, you're fine. We're still in this. Let's do this. Like, helping you out. You have a person to lean on, and then in singles, not only is it the cardio, but you have to be like mentally strong because you have to be the one pushing yourself at that point in a match. So, I mean, if you're getting beat and you're just getting beat down, like you have to, like, you better fight or you better get up and fight or you're gonna be looking at the lights here in about 3 seconds. So I think that's about mentally, that's about it. Like you have to basically push yourself and you have to worry about your cardio.
I've seen on your Instagram, you have a pretty sweet Predator tattoo.
Yeah.
So maybe this isn't a good question, but Predator or Alien?
Predator. Man, it sucks because I love both.
Yeah.
But I had watched Predator, so I watched Predator first and watched it so many times by the time that I had reached Alien at I don't know, I was probably 12 by the time I watched Alien.
Yeah.
I had already watched Predator probably 1,000 times at that point. And it's just always been one of my favorite movies as a kid. It's one of the best action movies, one of the best sci-fi action movies that's ever been made. So,
and it
in my
still
opinion,
holds up.
So,
it still holds up.
Yeah, absolutely, still holds up. So, I'm just a huge fan. I actually, speaking of, there's this horror website called Cavity Colors. They just dropped a Predator, bunch of Predator clothes, and I bought I bought the joggers that they put out. So yeah,
I know that website. That and like Creepy
Great website.
Company, and I'm totally into all that stuff, man.
Same.
So do you like the sequel, Predator 2?
I
do. I think it's underrated.
I honestly, I do enjoy it. I was kind of hoping that Arnold would have come back at some point.
Yeah.
Just to kind of finish his story, maybe. But I don't know if you played the Predator game online. They kind of finish it there.
That game, man, is so hard.
It's very hard.
It's so hard. We would play it because we would try to go find Predator and kill him, and he would just destroy me and my friends before we shot on him.
Especially the good ones. Like, it's almost impossible. There was a few times where we got the Predator, but it was rare. So.
What's some of your passions? Like, I see, like you're into movies, you're into a lot of pop culture stuff. So, like, what's some of your passions, or just shit you enjoy when you're winding down and relaxing that has absolutely nothing to do with pro wrestling?
Well, like I said, like I rediscovered my love for reading.
What do you like to read?
Mostly, so I was reading mostly. I'm a big Stephen King fan, so I read a lot of his short story books and just any book I can get my hands on, at least at the time. But like I said, I'm in the middle of The Stand now because my mom actually told me when I was younger, like, don't read that book just yet. Wait till you're older. I was like, okay. So
I have a very, very similar story.
Okay. So she told me when I was younger to wait on The Stand, and my first Stephen King book was The Green Mile.
Oh yeah,
love that book, amazing book, and the movie was even good too. I mean, as a kid, I read a lot of Goosebumps and a lot of Animorphs.
R.L. Stein, man, I have a huge collection.
He's I don't know if you guys have heard, but I think he's actually writing new stuff.
I heard something about that. See, the thing that I heard about, which I think I was older and I didn't get into his, there was a series he did after Goosebumps that I didn't get into, but I guess Netflix has a trilogy called Fear Street.
Okay, yeah.
And that movie trilogy based off of the R.L. Stine Fear Street series.
Is it?
Yeah, from what
I
I've
did
read.
not know that.
Yeah, and it looks good. Like I haven't got to sit down and watch it yet, but it actually looks very entertaining.
I've heard good things about the last one. I haven't heard a ton about the first two, but I might check that out if it's something to do with him.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's tied into like R.L. Stine somehow.
Huh. Yeah, I might have to check that out then if that's the case.
Yeah, I'm with you, man, on Stephen King. Like my favorite novel, and this isn't just my favorite Stephen King novel. My favorite novel of all time is Salem's Lot. I love that book. Love Salem's Lot.
I don't think I've read that, but I might have to put that. I'll put that on the list now.
So good, man.
Here's one thing I can say too about Stephen King. If you ever get the chance to go listen to him speak at an event, do it.
Yeah,
it is worth it.
He's honestly like I say this about like very few people that are in Hollywood or in general, but he's definitely one of the greatest minds of our time, to tell you the truth.
Absolutely.
And just how much of a genuine person he is too.
He's genuine. He's grounded, and I think he's just inspiring. Like the amount of work he puts out is incredible.
Yeah, and the fact I don't know if you remember. I don't remember when it was, but when he got in that car wreck and he had. You okay, bud? Yeah. He had writer's block for a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, got a little.
Oh, no worries, man.
But yeah, he had writer's block for a while, and then even after that, he started cranking them out again. So.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Can't keep that guy down long. I feel like so. I'm going to take it back to wrestling a little bit too. Speaking of, growing up and stuff, what are some of your early wrestling fandom memories, and who were your favorites growing up?
I remember the very first pay-per-view I watched. I don't remember who they were wrestling, but I remember Randy Savage and Hulk Hogan. It was 91 or 92, and they were teaming up.
Nice.
I don't remember which one it was. And then I dropped off. I don't know why we even ordered the pay-per-view. I don't remember watching wrestling at that point. But around 94, when for whatever reason, I don't know why, but Stone Cold versus Savio Vega in the Caribbean strap match.
Oh yeah.
And it was like another pay-per-view. It was like an In Your House or something. And I remember for whatever reason, we got the pay-per-view. We're like, all right, let's watch wrestling. And I was hooked ever since then. And I was all in on Stone Cold from there. Like it was the first time I saw him, and he wasn't even like, he had just started doing the Stone Cold gimmick, I think. And I was like, I'm all in. And he just
that was one of the early feuds, I think, with Savio. That was like the first feud for him.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken, that In Your House was the one where the power went out.
Yeah. Yep. The power went out at that show.
Yeah, in fact, yeah, it did. And then they actually did the Caribbean strap match again.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was after that one or before that one, but they ended up doing it twice.
I love Stone Cold. I thought that feud was good too. I like Savio.
Yeah.
So what made you, what was that moment? You're a fan of pro wrestling. What was that moment where you're like, you know what? I have to train. I have to actually do this and get in the ring.
So it was right around that time too. It was probably 97. So like two of my favorites, I'll admit it here. I hated Shawn Michaels, hated him because I was a huge Bret Hart guy.
Nice.
Huge Bret Hart guy, and then I was Stone Cold guy. So those are my guys. And then around 97, 98, 99, that's when I started. 99 is when I started tape trading, and I got into ECW, and I was like, ECW is what did it for me. And then I was like, man, I think I want to wrestle. And then I caught wind of All Japan. And what people were referring to as the 4 pillars of wrestling. And I was like, who the hell are these guys? And I bought, I think I bought like a compilation, and it just had multiple matches from each one of them. And within 3 matches, I was like, I'm in. I want to go to Japan. I want to be a wrestler. I want to hit people in the face, and I want them to swallow their own teeth. Like that's what I want to do. So probably around 98, 99 was when it all clicked for me.
I'm fascinated with, because I did that a little bit too, as far as buying the tapes, but young fans today don't understand the concept of tape trading.
It's so foreign to them.
It's so foreign. Like explain you as a tape trader. Like, what were you doing? Where were you finding your tapes? Who were you trading with?
So and it's actually like VHS tapes.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
I'm probably dating myself right now, but so I was trading with a guy I'd found online. I don't even remember where, honestly. I just remember he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm selling some ECW and Super J Cup 94, 95, 96." I was like, "I want them all." And I went to his website, and it was just a tape trading website. And I believe his name was like some form of like euthanasia was like the name, but it was like spelled like youth, like young person.
Yeah.
So that was my main trader for years. Like I got Ring of Honor, IWA Mid South, just stuff that you couldn't get your hands on at the time because Smart Mark wasn't around.
Right.
So, and then ECW, and then Japan and all that stuff. So that was the guy I mainly went through. But I watched that ECW pay-per-view, that first one, the 97, the Michinoku Pro 6-man tag.
Yeah.
Man, so good.
Because that was stuff like if you were just a fan and you were just tuning into like WWF at the time and that era of WCW,
You never see that shit.
You never seen that shit. It was totally different.
It was so good too. Like I was mind blown. And then like I'll even say, and maybe not as clean or crisp, but the SATs versus like Brian XL, Quiet Storm, and Chris. Can't remember the last guy's name, but like they had a bunch of 6-man tags, and man, those things were fucking wild. Excuse my language.
Oh, dude,
we're wide open.
Okay.
Yeah, it's crazy too, because we could get them off of websites and order them, but then there was a whole tape trading generation before that where you would find them in the ads in the back of wrestling magazines.
Yep.
Like,
yeah,
you could send off for tapes. So like kids today, where you can just like stream, buy a New Japan World subscription. It's like, dude, it used to not be as accessible.
Yeah, I had to pick my tapes and then wait a week and a half for the guy to send them to me. So
yeah. So
definitely not at your fingertips,
right?
For sure.
You've been in the ring with some of the hottest young talent out there right now. Top Flight, they're kind of blowing up, especially Dante Martin.
They're great. They're amazing.
Ace Austin, Kurt Stallion, Jake Something, Sammy Callahan, MSK, formerly the Rascals.
Lucha Brothers, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
twice against them. Yeah.
I mean, are there any particular opponents? I mean, there's so many, but are there any particular opponents or matches or moments that stick out to you where you look back and you're like, man, they really pushed me to my limits and I learned something that I still carry with me today?
Right before quarantine, we wrestled the Ugly Ducklings.
Oh yeah.
Rob and Lance. And that match, I wouldn't say it was a challenge, but it definitely, and this is like, because they're great, they're a great tag team. I'd like to see them a lot more, but I know I think Lance is on the sidelines at the moment. But I know that match we had to kick it up into another gear to kind of keep up with them a little bit. So but yeah, it was that one, I'd say. The Lucha Brother ones, yeah, we had to kick it up a notch in that one because they're the Lucha Brothers for a reason. Like they're elite for real. You got those guys. Trying to think who else who really pushed us in the last couple of years. We had a really fun match with Main State Posse at We Are Wrestling last in August. They're a great tag team. They should be everywhere. Like they're just fun. They're a fun tag team, and they're just really, really good and solid. And they know. I don't know if you've heard the complaint. It's like they know how to tag.
Yeah.
They know how to be a tag team. That
Right.
they know how to be a tag team. So
what's it like when you're in there with someone that like the Ugly Ducklings, like the Lucha Brothers, like Top Flight, like the Rascals? When you're in there with a team like that, what's it like elevating yourself? What's it like stepping into that next gear, do you feel the pressure of, okay, we're going in with guys who have this reputation? Like,
Mhm.
do you welcome it? Is there pressure, stress?
I would say 9 times out of 10, it's fuck these guys.
I love that.
That's my mentality going into the ring. There has been maybe 2 or 3 times in the last 6 years of us tagging, and I think the most recent time was after quarantine, just because of like my anxiety and stuff. But there's only been a few times where I was like, man, I'm really fucking nervous right now. And I think the one time was in England, and we were waiting for our music to hit, and we're both kind of doing our thing, and it just, you could see it because we both looked at each other, and just a wave hit both of us at the same time, like, we're here doing this. And like, I think it was the first show that we had for Progress, and we're like, holy shit, we're here doing this, they know who we are and they want to use us. And then we had a good showing that night. We needed a good showing that night. They actually put us up against British Strong Style their next show because of it. So yeah, so like that was one I was nervous for, but it ended up working out really well for us. So
Yeah, it's almost you always hear people talk about, paralysis by analysis. It's like you just have to be in that flow state, not think about it. And I love what you said, fuck these guys, because
yeah.
I've heard Jim Ross say, like, ego in wrestling is a good thing. Like you have to come in like with a chip on your shoulder, like, I don't care who you are, we're us, and you're going to find out who we are.
Absolutely. And like that's kind of how I am in general. I actually, like, I kind of wrestle with like a little bit of a chip on my shoulder. Not that it's like that I've been wronged by any means or anything. It's more of like the like, I guess the Michael Jordan thing, like, pick out something little and just focus in on it, and just laser focus on it, like, all right, fuck this. Like I took that personally.
Okay, so without picking Peter Venkman, who is the best Ghostbuster?
It has to be Lewis, right?
Gotta be.
Lewis Tully.
It's gotta be Lewis.
It has to be Lewis Tully at the end of the first one, or second one, right?
I mean, I feel like a lot of people might go Egon because he's kind of the brain, but
yeah, absolutely. I would almost go between him and Ray, because Ray has like the book of the occult and all that other good stuff. Like, I think Ray's kind of the dumb smart one, but he always comes through in the end too. So
oh yeah, I mean, but Venkman. I mean, how can you not pick Venkman? But Ray,
I wanted to. You told me I couldn't.
Ray would be mine, just because I love people obsessed with like the occult and all the creepy stuff. Like you gotta,
I like Egon.
I honestly, like, they all have their parts to play. Like, it's just like, I know everyone's gonna, like, it's like, who's your favorite turtle or who's your favorite Power Ranger? Everyone's gonna do it, but like they all play their own part to a T. And it puts the ensemble together, really. Like, it's just a great, I love the original. I love the second one. I'm hoping for the best on this new one. Hopefully.
I think the second one doesn't get enough love. I think the second one is really good.
Yeah, I know, like, I read a little bit into it, and I know, like, the actors didn't really like it a ton. I know Bill Murray hated it, and that was the reason why he didn't want to do the third
Another one.
Yeah. So
what current product are you watching? Any of the mainstream American pro wrestling?
So I keep up with my friends in WWE. And then, like, I have a lot of friends in AAW too, so like I'll keep up with them. But I just watch like Omega versus Danielson because that's a big deal. And like I mostly watch I mostly watch a bunch of Noah, to tell you the truth. I just watched Marufuji versus Nakajima for the GHC title, and that was
were you pretty pumped? Because I believe you're friendly with Ruby Soho.
Yes, I am. Yeah, we hung out a lot because we used to travel together. And then obviously, like, she blew up and went different places. Like, great for her. I actually just heard from her recently, and like, I'm super happy for her. I'm so glad she landed on her feet because she's one of the good ones, man.
I hear that a lot, and you can see that she's having the time of her life right now.
Oh yeah, and you can just tell just by like her demeanor and the way she comes off. She's just a genuinely good person, and like she's just a legit person, and like she's having fun, and it feels like she has purpose again. So I'm really happy to see her doing her thing again in AEW.
I can tell you, we were in Chicago when she debuted, and that pop was real.
Oh,
yeah.
It was electric.
Yeah, they missed the boat with her, man.
They did.
They had she has such a unique look, and she's such a unique way she wrestles and works and like carries herself. Like, they really missed the fucking boat with her, man.
They missed the boat with her in the ring, and even bigger than that, just hearing all the wrestlers that are around her. I think the biggest thing they missed the boat on is having like a true locker room leader. Like, everybody loves her.
Yep.
So what's your goals, man, for the next 3 years? Like, do you have anything you're shooting for?
Definitely trying to remain healthy. My knees are kind of giving me a little bit of fits, but nothing that's gonna like take me out anytime soon. But just trying to rest those, stay healthy, and man, like I said, if we can, our goal together is Fitchett and I. Our goal together is to go to Japan. So that's a big bucket list. And like now, like if WWE came knocking and that was it, then that would be awesome too. Like, but it's cool to know that WWE it doesn't have to be the last stop.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's not the top of the mountain, or at least, and it could be somebody. Like, it's just difference of opinion at this point.
Sure.
But there's so many places you can work and make a living off of now that really any of these companies came along and wanted to use us. Yeah, absolutely, let's do it. Let's make some money. So, but Japan is definitely on the bucket list.
I'd love to see you guys land in that New Japan Tag Team tournament they hold every year.
Fingers fucking crossed, man. Like, that would be that. All we need is a shot, like, just to show people like we're the real fucking deal as a tag team. Like, we're everything that people say we are. So
we'll start the campaign. Get them over.
Let's
do it.
So, last question, we ask it to everybody. You're making towns. You have a car. You have 3 wrestlers you can have in that car with you, alive or dead. Any 3 wrestlers. Who do you want in the car with you making those towns?
Well, I always have to have my my road dog and my road wife Fitchett with me.
Yeah.
That's just a given.
Yeah.
I would have to say Bret Hart, and fuck, I'll just say Owen Hart too, because I'd love to hear some of his ribs that he's played out. Like, I'm sure he's got some that have never even been talked about because he probably just has them hidden away somewhere in his head. So
what's crazy is he asked this question to everybody. I think you may be the first person that has said Owen Hart.
Yeah.
To be in the car.
Really?
How could you not have Owen Hart? I mean,
yeah.
One, he's a tremendous wrestler, and 2, the guy's probably like, you hear from everybody how insanely funny he was.
Exactly.
So, like, why wouldn't you want to pick that man's brain?
And I've heard he was so personal too. Like, he would just stay. He would
a sweet guy.
He would know fans in cities and just stay with them when he would go there to save money on a hotel, and because he was friendly.
Yeah.
I mean, the Besties and the Hart brothers in a car. Come on,
let's do it.
Let's do it.
And then wrestle each other. Like, come on.
yeah.
Man, what a fucking dream match for me. Now I'm jealous. Now I'm upset.
Well, man, we appreciate you stopping by. Let everybody know where they can find you, where they can find the Besties.
Yeah, on Instagram and Twitter, you can find me at Davey Vega 85. All right. Instagram and Twitter, you can find me at Davey Vega 85. And then also on Twitter, the Besties ITW at Besties ITW is our joint account. And then you can find us if you want to buy t-shirts from us. We're on Pro Wrestling Tees, and then we have our own on mouthpiecestudios.com.
Awesome.
And well, thanks again for stopping by. We look forward to catching more wrestling with you, and all the best, man. I want to
go to Japan, man.
Let's go to Japan.
Let's fucking do it. I appreciate you guys having me. This was a lot of fun.
Hell yeah, man. You have a seat anytime you want to come talk, man. Let's
Hell
talk.
yeah. Anytime you guys need somebody, I'm there.
Shit, yeah, man.
All right, man.
Have a good night.
You too. Thanks, guys.